Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the computer to do various matrix operations such as multiply and inverse. I know some of you use calculators to do these things. I discourage the use of calculators. In many years of experience in industry and in higher research, I have never seen calculators used. The only place I see calculators used is in schools to teach these basic facts, but in the real world, people don't use calculators. Alright, so let's start with one way of doing matrix operations, which is Wolfram Alpha. So I'm going to open my browser, and you go to the site www.wolframalpha.com. You can see that it's already recorded in my browser, so I'm just going to go there. And if you want to learn about matrix multiplication, you can just type in here matrix multiplication. Okay, and we'll go there. And it actually gives you a form to fill out. Now you need to understand the form. Here is the place where you can type in the two matrices, matrix 1, matrix 2. And this is the display, which shows the input matrices that you put in a usual form. Of course, you can't type it in this form. You type it in using this special syntax. Now notice here he has curly brackets 1, 2, 3. That corresponds to the first row in the first matrix. Curly brackets 3, 2, 1 corresponds to the second row in the first matrix, and so on. So you can see that in this input area, each row is enclosed in curly brackets, and there's a comma that separates the different rows. So for instance, if I wanted to input the matrix that has 3, 4, 5 in the first row, 6, 7, 8 in the second row, 9, 10, 11 in the third row, I'd erase this matrix here, and I do 3, 4, 5. And here I put 6, 7, 8. And then here I put, you have to go over here and use the right arrow to get to this part of the field. And this, I'd erase this part, and I put in 9, 10, 11. Okay. And if I wanted to put, say, the identity matrix in my second matrix, I'd erase this here, and I'd put 1, 0, 0. That's the first row of the identity matrix. Then for the second row, I'd erase this row and put 0, 1, 0. In the third row, I'd put 0, 0, 1. Okay, and I press the equal button, so we can see if what I did is correct. Okay, and here you can see that indeed the matrix 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is here, and the other matrix is 1 is the identity matrix. Now this is 3 by 3 matrices. I could always enlarge my matrix by adding more entries here. For instance, if I wanted to do 2 4 by 4 matrices, I could add suppose I add a 1 to each of these rows. And then let's suppose that the last row of the matrix is all 1s. So I'd have to put a comma here to add an additional row. I open the curly bracket to start my last row. I said my last row has all 1s, so I'm going to put 1, 1, 1, 1. Close the curly bracket. Now, of course, I need to change the second matrix as well, because you can't multiply a 4 by 4 matrix with a 3 by 3. But you can multiply a 4 by 4 matrix with a 4 by 3. So I'm just going to add a single row to this second matrix. Let me just add the row 1, 1, 1. Okay, so I'm going to leave the first 3 rows the same. I'm going to add a row 1, 1, 1. To do that, I need to type comma, and then curly brackets, then 1, 1, 1, close the curly brackets. And you'll see the result when I press the equals here. Alright, I have my 4 by 4 matrix here. Notice that I added 1s to the last column and 1s to the last row. And you can see the result of my adding a single row to the second matrix here. and it performs the multiplication for me. Notice this is a 4 by 4 matrix. This is a 4 by 3 matrix. According to the rules of matrix multiplication, the result will have the same number of rows as the first matrix and the same number of columns as the second matrix, which is in fact correct. 4 rows in the first matrix, 4 rows in the result. 3 columns in the second matrix, 3 columns in the result. Okay. The Wolfram Alpha also gives various other things which may or may not be interesting. You can look down and see how that works. Now, I could also do matrix inverse. Suppose I want to take the inverse of a matrix. I just type in here matrix inverse. And let's see. So here he tells me how to do various operations here. In this case, he's talking about the basic arithmetic, matrix operations. Let's look for inverse. Aha, here we have inverse here. Okay, so it's quite clear from our past experience that this portion here represents a matrix. Remember, the rows are in curly brackets, and the rows are separated by commas. So here he is asking for the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix. And if I press the equals here, we'll see what we get. So you notice that he has represented the input in a different form, which is easier to interpret. Okay, and then he gives the result down here. Suppose I wanted to take the inverse of a diagonal matrix, such that the entries of the diagonal were 1, 2, and 3. Then I would erase this first row and replace it with 1, 0, 0. I'd take the second row, erase this, and replace it with 0, 2, 0. I take the third row and replace this with 0, 0, 3. Now that's the inverse of the diagonal matrix with entries 1, 2, and 3 on the diagonal. I just press the equals here. And I can see that my input is correct. Diagonal matrix, entries 1, 2, 3. He's going to take the inverse for me, or she, as the case may be, and gives me this result, which is the inverse of the matrix. Okay? So you can do a great deal with Wolfram Alpha. I want to show you another way of doing matrix operations, which is using spreadsheets. The advantage of spreadsheets is that your results are recorded in the sheet. In my math modeling class, we'll do most of the models using spreadsheets because it organizes your data. It gives you a way to put the various parts of the model in a coherent display. All right, so there's different spreadsheets available. There's Microsoft Excel, which most people have. That's part of Microsoft Office. There's LibreOffice Calc, which is part of LibreOffice. I'm going to use LibreOffice Calc. The steps are identical for Microsoft Excel. The advantage for LibreOffice Calc is that it's free software. Okay, so I'm going to use this application. As I mentioned, you can do the same thing with Microsoft Excel. All right, so to multiply two matrices, let me just label this matrix, matrix 1. It's always a good idea to label the different elements in your spreadsheet. So I'll put matrix 1 here. It's going to be a 3 by 3 matrix. And I'll put matrix 2 here. Okay. And let me multiply these two matrices together. So let me just use our typical example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have put my matrix in these cells. And nice thing about Excel, about spreadsheets, of course, is that you can highlight your areas. And I'm going to make this yellow, so that shows that this is where my matrix 1 is. I can highlight this in a different color to indicate that it's not actually part of the matrix. Okay. And matrix 2, let's do another one. We'll do 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 9, to some nice matrix, 1, 4, 16. Okay. So that's my matrix 2, and let me, whoops, made a mistake there. If you make a mistake in your spreadsheet, a handy thing to know is Control-Z. Hold down the Control, press the Z, and your mistake is reversed. All right, so I'm going to select this. Now, I should mention how I'm selecting. To select, I click on the first cell I want to select, then hold down the Shift button and use the arrow keys. Now I'm using down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, right arrow, right arrow. I find this way easier to select than using the mouse. It gives a good way to make rectangular selections. So let's make this one to be red. I'm going to make like that, and then I'll change this to indicate that it's not the part of the matrix. All right. So I'm going to, down here, I'm going to do the product of the two. So I'll do matrix 1 times matrix 2. And I know that my result is going to be a 3 by 3 matrix. And the product of two 3 by 3 matrices is a 3 by 3 matrix. So in order to calculate the result, I first need to select the entire area where the matrix is going to go. All right, so I need to select a 3 by 3 area here. I want to put the matrix right here, so I'm going to use my method. Hold down the Shift, down arrow, right arrow, right arrow. Okay, and now I need to type in the formula that gives me the matrix multiplication. All right, so I start every formula in spreadsheets. This is something that you need to remember. Every time you type a formula in a spreadsheet, you need to begin with equals. I remember when I first started with spreadsheets, it took me hours to figure that out because they didn't explain it clearly. So I'm giving it to you up front. Every time you put a formula in a spreadsheet, always start your formula with equals. Okay? Now we want to multiply these two matrices together. Spreadsheets have like Excel and like LibreOffice, have a special command called mmult. This is a command that the spreadsheet recognizes that tells it that you want to multiply two matrices together. All right, so let me put a parenthesis here. Now notice that this pops up here, mmult parenthesis array, comma, array. A similar thing happens in Microsoft Excel. This tells me that the spreadsheet does recognize this command. It knows that it's indicating matrix multiplication, and I need to give this command two arguments, the first array and then the second array. All right? So the first array is this matrix here. Let me go ahead and select that. Okay. So that's the first matrix that I want to multiply together. All right. Notice there's a comma between the arrays, so now I need to put a comma. Okay. And then now I need to select the second array. Notice this little arrow here that tells me that this is where I am in the formula. Let me go ahead and select my second array. Notice I don't select the word because the word is not part of the matrix. Okay. Now close the parenthesis, and this is the most important part of the typing. You cannot just enter. You have to hold down the Control, hold down the Shift, and press Enter. That is the spreadsheet's way of understanding that this is an array formula. It doesn't just give a value in a single cell, it gives an array of cells. So that's what I'm going to do. Hold down the Control, hold down the Shift, press Enter, and there is my matrix. Okay? All right, so that's how to multiply two matrices, and you can figure that out. All right, so let's try something else. I want to find the inverse of a matrix. So let's put that here. I'm going to invert matrix 1 of matrix 1. Okay, again, these are just words, so it doesn't compute anything. That's just to help me understand what goes where. All right, so to find the inverse of matrix 1, I need to do something similar. There's going to be a command that gives me the inverse. And in fact, I forget what the command is. Now, when you forget what a command is, you can go to the help. Microsoft Excel has help also. In this case, the help is here. And then go to LibreOffice Help. And let's look for inverse. Okay. All right, here it says inverse arrays. Let's see what that says. Okay. Here we have this command, minverse. Minverse is the inverse of an array. So that looks like the command I'm going to be using. You can see down here mmult, which is the command I already used. All right, so let me go ahead and close out the help. And I know that my command that I'm going to use here is minverse. So let's do it. We use a similar method. We need to select the entire area where the answer is going to go. So let's put this here. We know the answer is a 3 by 3. And we know that we need to type in minverse. Minverse parenthesis. Look, it recognizes this command, so I'm on the right track. It's waiting for an array. As I mentioned, I want to take this first array here and close the parenthesis because that's all I need to take the inverse. I don't need two matrices, just one. And now the very important step where you hold down the Control and the Shift and press Enter, and there we go. All right, and this is looking like very big numbers here. I think what happened is that this matrix is actually a singular matrix, so that's why we're getting big numbers here. If I try to use this matrix, then I think I'm going to have trouble. Let me go ahead and take the inverse of matrix 2. Okay. In fact, you can see that if you take the difference between the first two rows, you're going to get 3, 3, 3. If you take the difference between the second two rows, you're also going to get 3, 3, 3. That indicates that the rows are linearly dependent, so this matrix is a singular matrix. Now let's go ahead and take the inverse of matrix 2. I'm going to use a similar method. Select the 3 by 3 area. Type equals, because it's a formula. Minverse for the inverse of a matrix, parenthesis. Select the matrix. Close the parenthesis. Hold down Control. Hold down Shift. Keep them held down. Press Enter. And there we go. We have the inverse of matrix. All right, let's check our answer here. If I multiply matrix, here I have the result for matrix 1 times matrix 2. Let's give that a nice pretty color. Maybe there's a purple here that we can use. Okay, let's go ahead and use the purple there. And I'll indicate this with a different color. Make it darker purple. Okay, I'm not going to use this one, but let's go ahead and make it a color just to be nice. We'll make it blue. Okay, and let's make this a color here. What color do we have left? Orange maybe. Okay, let's try that. Okay, and we'll go ahead and make this something else. Okay. All right, now, in order to verify this, I can take this purple matrix. If I take this purple matrix times this orange matrix, you can think about what the result should be. If I take matrix 1 times matrix 2 times the inverse of matrix 2, well, this inverse of matrix 2 should cancel off this matrix 2, and I should end up with matrix 1. Now, let's see if it works. So I'm going to take matrix 1 times matrix 2, and then I'm going to do times the inverse, matrix 2. Okay. All right, again, these are just words to help me know what I'm doing. All right, now to do this, I want to multiply this matrix times this matrix. So remember what we have to do there. This is going to be not min, but mmult. Type in mmult, and I'm selecting this array first. Remember, when you do matrix multiplication, the order matters. It's critical. So I'm going to multiply that one first times this one. Hold down the Control, hold down the Shift, press Enter. Here we go. Notice these two matrices agree, and I'm in business. Okay, so in summary, you have two different ways of doing matrix multiply and of doing matrix inverse. These should be these should be useful for you in doing the exercises and throughout the class. Okay, that's it.